Get ready for the Ocelli effect.
I'm a big fan of the show.
Chuck Ocelli, and he's been known for many years as a blind PFK researcher specializing in intelligence agency involvement in multiple assassination, propaganda, and other global criminal operations in the 20th and 21st centuries.
Your listeners are extremely fortunate to have you.
And now, the most underrated voice in all media.
Chuck Ocelli!
It is the 8th day of October 2018, allegedly, according to the thing we call a calendar, and this, indeed, is the Ocelli Effect. Broadcast live from the facilities of Ocelli.com, but also heard on a variety of other networks, including micro-broadcasters up in the Northeast, who we do appreciate you, but for legal reasons will not identify you. Anyway, it is a Moon Day or a Monday. It's the first day of the week, and we are continuing our series with Jordan Maxwell. Now, Jordan has done already 10 episodes here on religion. This is where the focus is. Of course, we've gone into a couple of other subject areas because a lot of things are connected to religion. A lot of action, a lot of motivation, a lot of reality is connected to religion. So it might seem as though we've strayed on occasion into other areas, but really, honestly, it's all about religion in general. So you got to go to JordanMaxwellShow.com. By the way, why? Because JordanMaxwellShow.com, all together, JordanMaxwellShow.com, you know what? That's the only website that is Jordan Maxwell's. In addition, it's the only place that I know of that you can get to the Jordan Maxwell Research Society, where there's a button there. You can get into it for a one-time fee. You can get a lifetime subscription over there and be able to get in-depth not only on religion, which we're going to discuss tonight, but also about banking, about, well, you know, the international politic, if you will, about American history, about a whole lot of interesting things, actually. Religion is one very small part of what you can get into, and it's being added to constantly. In addition, we told you last week that there are now videos on demand there, which for a small fee, for less than what it would cost you to buy a DVD and have it shipped to you, you can get a direct video from Jordan Maxwell himself through JordanMaxwellShow.com. Okay, and that is the only website that's Jordan's. Remember that. There's a lot of other places to try to use his name and everything else, but the truth is, that is his website. You can write to him there. You can donate to him there. You can join the Research Society there. That is it. Okay? Anything else is an imitation. Jordan, how are you tonight, sir? It's now we're going into episode 11, I believe, and wow, I didn't know that it was going to be this many. Of course, as you said at the beginning, well, as we agreed at the beginning, however many it takes is however many it takes, and that's what we're going to do. Almost every Monday, a couple of skips. Maybe I wasn't feeling well the one time, maybe you weren't, or you were out of town. That's right, you were out of town, actually. And, but whatever, it's been a continuous series, and we've definitely gotten reactions from it.
I'll bet.
But it's amazing to take a look at the incredible amount of information that you've already put into these things. And meanwhile, again, you want to go more in depth, there's ways to do it. And Jordan also along the way usually gives you guys different places to look, different things to search on the internet, book suggestions. Gee, kind of sounds like the Research Society area, Jordan, over there, where you can actually find the references and go look at the books yourself, look at the images yourself. But anyway, we're going to do this like we always do. How are you doing tonight?
Well, I think okay. I always say as well as I can be expected to at 78 years old, but I feel pretty good, and I've already been talking to people today, so I got a lot of things on my mind that we talked about, and so the only problem with doing 11 shows is that I forget what I've covered before and what I haven't covered, and there's so much more that I would like to talk about, but I don't remember in the last 10 shows what we talked about, and so I don't want to repeat the same stuff over. But there is so much that we really need to know, and I want people to understand that I am not anti-religious, and I'm not anti-Christian, I'm not anti-Jewish, I'm not anti-anything. My modus operandi has always been to open your mind, because I've said it before, your mind's like a parachute. It doesn't work if it's not open. And so I've always I have quite literally loved the idea of reading and studying all sorts of arcane subjects, lots of subjects that are really fascinating, incredible subjects that most people have never been introduced to. They don't even know these subjects exist. And religion is one of them. I mean, so many people have a religious belief wherever it is they happen to come from and wherever it is they happen to have been born into, and they have a religious belief. But as far back as when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I was questioning the conceptual ideas of God. And what are you talking about when you talk about God? Define your terms. And so I'm not irreligious, and I'm not anti-Christian, I'm not anti-God. As a matter of fact, I am totally convinced that there is a divine creator. For myself, I'm convinced that there is some kind of a divine presence in our human civilization that is out there in space. It's out there. Well, that's what you ask any little Christian kid. Do you believe in God? Yeah. Do you know what God is? Oh, yeah, we know exactly what it is. Oh, really? What is it? They don't know. And then but then you ask them, well, where does God live? And they'll point out in the sky. He lives out there in the sky. Well, what is that out there? Well, that's heaven. So, okay, then I guess God lives in heaven, right? So that's what we call it, the heavens. And then you come to find out that if God lives out there in heaven, then that means he's extraterrestrial. Now let's get into some really dark stuff. Oh, really? God's an extraterrestrial? He's not from Alabama originally. He's not from Tennessee. He's from out there. Yeah, well then he has angels. Yeah, what are angels? We don't know, but they're angels. So... where are they from? Well, they are from heaven, too. The angels are in heaven. And so you point out there. Well, the bottom line is that the whole idea of a creator, God, angels, all is extraterrestrial topics, ETs. And then when you start going back, as we've done on this program, where we go back to Genesis, and in Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what it says in the original text. Go read it from the Hebrew Bible and read it in Hebrew, and it says, in the beginning, the gods, more than one, plural, the gods made the heavens and the earth.
Right.
And so when God was creating Adam and Eve, no, the gods created Adam and Eve. And that's why in Genesis 1:28, it says, come, let us make man in our image and our likeness. What do you mean us? Who's us? Well, God is talking to himself. No, the reason why it says come let us, and then in Genesis 2 it talks about that God came down and saw mankind and what he was doing, what he's involved in. It says now man has become as one of us, knowing good and evil. Now he's like us, and all those crazy things we do in heaven, all these crazy things we do in heaven is now the humans that we created to look like us and act like us. They're acting just like us. They're fighting wars and so the bottom line is that the gods created us to look like them. So that's why you read the scriptures. God said, come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Not make man. Man's already here. But let's make man in our image to look like us and be like us. So therefore, we see in Genesis 1:18, or Genesis 18, where Abraham is approached by 3 men, and then the Bible says it was God and 2 accompanying angels. But they sat under a tree and had dinner with Abraham, and then the two assistants to God got up and went into Sodom and Gomorrah. And so the whole Bible is filled with angels and God that look like us. And so, well, what does that tell you? Well, maybe there might be something to that since it's in the Bible. And if there is something to it, then maybe some of the people you look up to as royalty are actually extraterrestrials who look like you. They look human like you. But they're not human.
You're reading my mind, actually, Jordan, because as I'm listening to you discuss how the allegedly singular God, which, by the way, Elohim indicates immediately this is more than one, if you understand it. So, I mean, it's that simple. And, in fact, it actually describes that there's male and female involved there.
That's right.
Which is odd thing, too.
God made man in his own image, male and female.
Correct. Well, but the interesting thing you bring up with royalty is this: when they speak, when the blue bloods speak, so to speak, right? Interesting, They call them blue bloods too, but when the blue bloods speak, they say we. We are the queen. We are. And it's very interesting because there's a whole system to that. And, the queen actually is in the office of the king at the moment in England, right? So she's ruling the country as the king. But through the office. She's the queen, certainly. But when she speaks, we are the queen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It.
Now, why do they do that?
Yep. It's because they believe, and they say to us, that they have a divine right of kings. A divine right. Well, when do you talk about divine? Divine right, it implies that God has anointed me to be king. So I have a divine right from God. Well, which God? Well, we're not going to talk about that. Well, when did God appoint you? Because I know you and I don't like you, and nobody else in town likes you either. So, we know that you're from God. Why? Because you told us. But from our viewpoint, you just another self-centered, egotistical elite who's riding around in a gold chariot and flipping your cigarettes and doing your drinking and all the other stuff you do, killing people and wars. And that doesn't sound very divine to us. And so then you find out, when they say we, even in the Quran, even in Islam, when God is talking to Muhammad or to any of the other prophets, in the Quran, it says, we made you, we did this and we did that. And God said, we came down and we saw you and we came down and did this and that. And there's actually a scripture, and I've got it right here, but I got to find it on my computer. But basically, it says in the Quran, it says, "We came down and brought you your scriptures." This is in the Quran. We came down and brought you your scriptures, and we will be the protector of your scriptures. We will see to it and protect the scriptures that we brought you. Well, we've been told that, that Muhammad wrote this and Muhammad wrote that, and Muhammad did all these wonderful things, and all the scriptures were given to him, and that he wrote them. Then you come to find out, no, Muhammad didn't write nothing. It says, God said, we brought down the Quran and gave it to you, and we will protect it ourselves. It's not your work. We wrote it. And we brought it down to you. Well, who is we? Well, the idea is that all the ancient peoples of the world knew there is not one main God in the universe. There's plenty of gods. But when you hear that the Jews are God's chosen people, and the Jews were the first monotheistic God, the first monotheistic people, were the Jewish people. They were the first people to recognize that there was only one God, and that one God is their God, and it's the God of the whole creation of the universe. And he loves the Jews, and Jews were his chosen people, and there's only one God in the whole universe, and they are his people, period. So they are the master race, because they have been picked by the almighty God of the universe. But that's not what it says in the scriptures at all, and it doesn't make any common sense either. Because in the Ten Commandments, God is giving the Ten Commandments to Moses, and he says one of the first commandment says, "I am the Lord your God." not the Lord of the whole universe. No, I am the Lord your God. And I shall not have strange gods before me. He didn't say there were no strange gods. He said, no, there's plenty of strange gods, but I don't want any of them before me. Well, this is the same thing a young man says to his fiancée. There's plenty of other young men out there, but I had better not catch you with them. I'm the one you chose. We've made a deal. We're going steady. We're going to get married. So yeah, there's a lot of other guys out there that are probably better than I am, wealthier than I am, but we have a deal. You picked me and I picked you and we have a deal. So I better not see you with any other guy. Well, that's what the Bible says. God is a jealous God. And he told Israel, I am the Lord your God. There are others, but you picked me, and I'm the one that agreed to it, so therefore I better not see you having any other gods before me. And so now we find out that the word in the Hebrew is Elohim for God, but in Hebrew, El is God in Hebrew. But that in Genesis 1:1, it doesn't say in the beginning El created the heavens and the earth. It says in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Well, Elohim is a plural, like putting an S on the end of the word car. You put an S on it, it becomes cars, more than one. Well, that's what Elohim means. El is God in the plural, more than one. So once you understand that, well, where does this God, who is more, that's gods more than one, where are they? They're out there. Even a child will tell you, gods are out there.
Right.
And they look like you, because they created you in their image and their likeness, which means so many of the people that are running our planet today, you think are holy and righteous, and Prince Charles and Princess Di and all, and the Queen Mum. And then you find out, no, they're a bunch of Nazis, they're a bunch of murderers, and they're not from here. That's why they don't mind killing you, your family, and raping the whole world and stealing everything. And if you get in their way, they'll bomb you and blow you off the face of the earth. Why? Because they're not human. They don't give a damn about you as a human. They have a divine right. Why? Because you don't know who they really are. You don't know what's really going on here. You need to go back and look at the Bible and see what the real name of the tune is, because you're in serious trouble if you think that there's a God out there who's going to protect you and he loves the children and he loves all the little animals, etc. No, the real story is we are in a universe that's filled with other life forms, and they're superior to us, and they have come here. And some of them may have already been here before humans were even created. So the bottom line is, when you talk about God, you need to go back and do your homework. The story is not what you think it is. We've been had.
Absolutely.
And somewhere along the line, the people are going to come face to face with the reality of who we are and how we have been designed by extraterrestrials, and we are now here in their image and their likeness. And so the scripture says, and the idea was expressed by the Knights Templars, as above, so below. So all the lunacy you see us humans doing, well, that's just what the gods are doing. The gods are demons and devils and angels and poltergeists, jesters and jokers who lie to us, spirits that lie and tell us about God, and they themselves are extraterrestrials from out there in the universe who have come here. So the whole idea now is you need to go back and look at religion and where did it come from and what in the world is actually in fact happening. You don't have to look at the real facts right now. It's going to show itself real soon.
Oh, yes, absolutely true. You know, Jordan, a couple of things come to mind here. First of all, we did get a question in already, and I didn't even tell people they could ask questions. But if you're in the live chat room or you're on my Skype list, by all means, enter a question that is reasonable to what we're discussing. Jordan is more than happy to address them, whatever they may be. So yeah, live chat room, or if you're on Skype, Charles.Ocelli is my Skype name, and I will read them and interpret what it is you're asking. no problem. I will add anything to the conversation that is reasonable. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, I used to think, now you might find this strange, but I used to think that David Icke was absolutely laughable with this concept of reptilians being on the planet and this kind of thing. But you know what kept happening to me, Jordan?
What?
I kept having a hard time figuring out how a human being can do what some alleged human beings do to other human beings.
Yep.
And I said to myself, look, when they say to you, well, look, you see a conspiracy, you see that, thousands, millions, whatever, how many are being murdered? How can somebody possibly do that? I mean, they must be mentally sick. They must be mentally ill. They must be, and mental illness doesn't account for it, because mental illness, eventually they collapse into something. They crash. But these people that do it for decades, for 50, 60, 70 years, of their, of their time and power, I would say to myself, they're not mentally ill. They might be mentally ill toward the end. Some people go a little fuzzy toward the end of their lives, or maybe they had trouble in their youth, but the majority of the time they're there, literally poisoning and slaughtering and setting things into motion that are absolutely harmful and horrific. They're not mentally ill. So I say to myself, well, what is the other answer here? This is almost like an inhuman, and I just kept coming up against the same wall. This is not what a human being would do if they had an ounce of an idea of the damage they were doing. See, a human being has empathy built in, unless there's a damage. They have empathy built in. They can't possibly rest well with this, be happy with this, be thrilled with the spoils of war, since they know it costs 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 lives.
Yep.
And I started saying, no, I'm not saying I'm a devotee of David Icke's. No. But what I'm saying is, not so crazy to say that some of these creatures that appear human might be something else. Because it just appears that way. I mean, it just following the logic and the reality of their behavior, Jordan. That's the first thing. So I agree with you. And a lot of people say, oh, it's crazy talk. God is an extraterrestrial. Well, first of all, in a practical sense, if you're telling me that God doesn't necessarily reside on this planet, by definition, he's an extraterrestrial. Okay, God is in heaven, God is everywhere. Okay, I get that. And that is a wonderful thing, because that's the idea that all of his creations are all his, and so on and so forth. And I don't even mean to give the masculine to it. It's just a matter of, that's what I've commonly thought to say first. I understand all that. The first curveball comes from a question, which I don't think I've ever heard you address this, but, the Mormons, they talk about aliens basically intermingled with God. And that part of it makes sense. Now, was Joseph Smith a con man? I think so. But did he have some of the truth? Maybe. A good con man doesn't sell you the whole, complete, full lie, do they?
No, not at all.
But I'd love to know your look on that, because Mormonism, to me, when I was a kid, I thought it was just another form of Christianity. Yeah. And it's really not. I mean, Jesus is in there, but it's not really. So I was wondering if you had thoughts on Mormonism, because in some ways it actually comes to more of the truth, and in some ways it gets really strange. But then again,
it's only when you study the occult world of theology and metaphysics, and understand what you're seeing, if you have what is called a preternatural experience. Preternatural used to be called supernatural, but it's not supernatural, because supernatural means it's natural, but it's really just natural. That's why it's supernatural. No, the word is preternatural, means not of this world. Things that that has nothing to do with the world you live in. This is not from here, from this earth. It's not from this planet. It has to do with something that's out there, or something that's in this earth, or something that has nothing to do with your human life. It's preternatural. And so once you understand preternatural and what it means, and then you start looking at all the stories coming out of the ancient world, not just the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas and Upanishads the Quran and the Torah and all the other holy writings, you begin to see that there's a whole world of ancient knowledge and history that we are not privy to know about. And now you begin to see the real story is beginning to develop, that we were nothing more than created creatures, and we were probably recreated. That's why the Bible says in Genesis, "Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness," meaning and implying man is already here. He's already here, but he's not that pretty for being a creature walking upright. And so science today calls those creatures, we know that they existed, and we call them hominids. Look up the word hominid, and it will show you apes that look like us. They walk upright. They are built like us. They're ugly as a homemade sin, but they're ugly. But they walk upright, and they're full of hair, and they will look like a human monkey. But the scientists say they really existed because we have the skeletal remains, and science calls them hominids. Well, somebody must have come here millions of years or thousands of years or whatever it was a long time ago, and encountered, when they came here to this earth, they encountered living creatures on this earth that had evolved or somehow had got here, and there's a lot of them. And so somebody that came here from another world said, "Look, come, let us make this creature to look like us. Why don't we intervene in its DNA structure, and let's co-produce with this female. Let us take her and artificially create another life form in her, and let's cross genetics, and let's see what she gives birth to." That's fine. That's fun. Let's see what she gives birth to. If we put the seed of life into her, and so we've come from another world out there that you don't know anything about, but we come here and we see these hominid creatures. We call them Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon man and all these ancient peoples we loosely think of as cavemen or whatever. And so these extraterrestrials who came here decided, let's make them look like us because they seem to be able to procreate. So let's take one of the females and artificially cross-breed with her. Let's see what she gives birth. What she gave birth to, it probably wasn't exactly what the extraterrestrials were thinking. So let's do it again. Maybe we put too much of this and not enough of that. We did it a little bit wrong because we're just experimenting. So let's do it again. And this time we'll put more of this and a little bit less of that. And now let's see what she comes up with. And so this is why I'm saying it's very possible, and I'm not the only one saying this, but it's very possible that that's where we get Bigfoot, the Yeti, the gorilla-like man who walks upright and has a family, has females and has children, but he's a lot stronger, bigger, and scarier than we are. Well, that's what maybe the Neanderthal creatures may have looked like, but when the angels or the extraterrestrials crossbred with those hominid creatures, they gave birth to something which is half Neanderthal, half indigenous creatures, and half angels. So that these Bigfoots and these animals are brilliant. They're smart. They can disappear in front of you. They can reappear. Nobody wants to deal with them. They're frightening. They're scary. It very well might be that they were some of the first of the crop to be turned out. That turned out with the crossbreeding of a Neanderthal with the gods who came from another world. And then they kept refining themselves, obviously, until one day they gave birth to us. Now we are totally different from the Neanderthal and from the ancient, what we call the cave dwellers or whatever. We writing beautiful music, making movies, motion pictures, going and flying jets and creating lasers and. We're just a magnificent creation of wisdom and knowledge, but we're still a bunch of animals. We're still out there fighting in the streets and killing each other and warring with each other. But We also have a divine spark in the human family, in the human race, that we can create gorgeous, beautiful art and write, the beautiful music and create lasers and all kinds of wonderful things that we can do. We can build Disneyland and all kinds of great stuff that shows that we are brilliant creatures. And who put all of this incredible knowledge into our heads? Maybe it was because the extraterrestrials crossbred again and again and again until they finally got it right. And now they finally got it right. Now we look exactly like them. And that's why the Bible says, man has become as one of us. Now look at him. Now he can do whatever he wants to do. He can create rockets and put on their atomic bombs and come out into space. So look what we have done. We've created a monster. We've created something that we're going to have to deal with because he is smart. He's intelligent. He's got nuclear weapons, and he can fly into space. So we've got some serious problems. We should have left this whole thing alone a long time ago, but it's too late now because he's reproducing himself and they're getting smarter as they go. And so that's why I think that we are dealing right now, and I'm totally sure that there are reptilian aliens here because I'm the one that probably the first person who talked to David Icke about reptilians because I brought David Icke to America when he wasn't even known here. Nobody never heard of him, but I brought him here back in 1992. And I was in San Diego, and I was running a company, working for a company where I had access to money, and the company was a publishing outfit, and so I've helped a lot of people that are very famous today, but I helped make them famous. And so I talked with David Icke about reptilians and reptile aliens who but today they are shapeshifters. And they can look like you very quickly, or they can look like what they really look like where they came from, which were reptile aliens. And so I've been talking about this stuff for many years. Well, I have got some circumstantial evidence about the reptilian presence on the earth that's pretty overwhelming. Incredible stuff. And I'll send you some of the audio video files and my website, and my hard drive that I have captured because when I first saw them, they were so breathtaking. I thought I need to copy this because nobody's going to believe it. No one's going to believe what is on this web back in 1999 and 2000. So I'll send you some of the stuff I saved. One of them will knock your socks off. There's a 60 minutes interview with Prince Charles, and Prince Charles is walking in this big garden, beautiful garden, with this host questioning him from 60 Minutes, and then they sat down together on this like a bus bench kind of thing in the garden. And they're talking, well, the 60 Minutes reporter asked Prince Charles something he didn't like. He pried into some personal something that Prince Charles was not happy about. And instead of, registering, an expression that he wasn't happy with that question, Prince Charles actually looked, and it's on, and you see this, they had the camera on. Prince Charles looked at this host and started hissing, and his eyes became like a snake, but he was hissing and hissing loud at him, and it was incredible. Nobody could believe this. Prince Charles hissing like a snake, and it wasn't just a little flippant sign. No, he's actually looking at him and hissing at him like a snake. Well, if you go on the web today and go to YouTube and type in people hissing, just type in the people hissing, and you will see all kinds of videos of talk show hosts or game show hosts or or interviews or news interviews where individuals will hear something they don't want to hear and they start hissing like a snake. So I'm saying to myself, why are these humans that look human, but they turn and act like a snake? The way they turn their neck and their eyes they get this look in their eye like an animal, and then they start hissing. What is that all about? Well, you better go back and look at it, because that's what happens, and it's on film. And when David Icke talks about the extraterrestrials who look like who are reptilian, I was probably the one who got him started on that back in 1962 when I first brought him here, because I have talked to some of the most incredibly brilliant people in my life, people I know that are extraordinarily successful, important people in this world, and they have told me about their own personal one-on-one experience with hissing reptiles. They look like reptilian, they move like reptilians, and they would hiss. And so it's just astounding. And then when I go back to the Jewish Tograms, which is the old they're called the Jewish Tograms, are the old records of what the rabbis centuries and centuries ago had to say on different subjects. It's like like in American law, you've got all of our laws go back to the 1700s. And so when the judge says he's going to render an opinion, that means an opinion based on everything we know about this particular law. And it goes back 400 years or 300 years. And so there is it's called Jewish Tograms, what the old rabbis hundreds of years had to say about certain subjects. And when talking about Adam and Eve, there's about 3 or 4 documents, and I'll email you the documents, you read them yourself, where these old rabbis 500 years ago, 400 years ago, talked about when Adam was created, he had scaly skin like a snake, and that he had to undergo some kind of a different kind of operation, or what am I trying to say, reincarnation or something. And they said then he lost his scaly skin and began to take on what we today refer to as human. But when he was here, he had a reptile head, and he had scaly skin like a reptile. I didn't say that. The rabbis wrote that. The rabbinical authorities 400, 500, 600 years ago talked about Adam having scaly skin like a reptile. So I'm thinking, what is that? What are they talking about? Well, they're not stupid, and they must have had a reason for saying that. So you better go back and look at this whole subject of who was this new creature they call Adam, A-D-M. We call it Adam. No, go back in the Hebrew Bible and look where it says that God created Adam, A-D-M. We're the ones that put another A and make it Adam. No, it's not Adam. Adam. And then you find out what the word Adam means in the ancient Hebrew. So I'm just saying that if you really want to talk about theology, then go do your homework. Spend 60 years looking at the words, the terms, the etymologies, the stories, cross-referencing the stories with other ancient civilizations, and you will find out the whole of what we call the religious world has been telling you something that you don't have sense enough to even know how far back it goes. The concepts and the ideas that we're expressing today have been around for tens of thousands of years, but you don't know what they mean. You don't know what the etymology of the words mean. So what the Bible is telling you is totally, totally different than anything you're being told today in a synagogue. Anything you're being told today in a mosque, a church, or a synagogue, you have no idea in the world how distorted that stuff really is. And I've said this before on the program, but right now it's also important to add that all 3 of the major religions today, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all come from the Hindu. India is the birthplace of all 3 major religions today. But happily, it's been so well hidden that there's only a handful of people who have done this kind of research and see it. Definitely, Judaism is a Hindu religion. Christianity is directly out of the Hindu. And now that's a whole subject, we talked about. Well, we could talk about it again later, but
yeah,
I'm just
sure. Listen, I want to get into that some more, but quite honestly, I have another thought in my mind here I want to get to since we've gone into Genesis quite a bit here today. When I attempt to read from the Hebrew, okay, I'm not somebody who speaks it or normally reads it. I'm sitting there with a concordance, a translator, okay. But when I take a look at it, not only is there this concept of, you mentioned the reformation of man, not the invention of man, because most people, they hear that story and it's sort of like, well, from the dirt, he makes a man. Okay, that's incorrect. But what is interesting about the dirt here is that the way that I read it, now maybe I'm wrong, but the way I read it is that the earth is also being reformed.
Yes.
Not
correct.
snapped into existence. It's being, creating the firmaments and the water and all that. This is the reorganization of something that was already there. It's not the creation of the entire planet, is it?
That's right. It's a recreation of this entire planet and all life on it. And that's what this whole thing is all about. Somebody has come back and they're recreating all over again. And now they're coming back the way they must have come here millions of years ago, or whatever it was when these extraterrestrials came here and they saw the indigenous creatures that we today scientists call hominids. We think of them as cavemen, but whatever they were not like us. And so these creatures came from other worlds. They came from out there, from heaven. And they said, "Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Well, that's what's happening today. There seems to be a new evolution idea now being put forth because mankind has become so large, so many humans, and it's totally out of control. I mean, at least 95% of the earth are so ignorant they don't even know they're alive. They just reproduce and eat and reproduce and eat until there's just millions and millions of them, and collectively they got an IQ of 40. They just keep reproducing and drinking their beer and entertaining themselves with bullfights and guns and ball games. They just keep reproducing and reproducing. And so whoever is in charge of this world, the gods, are obviously looking at us and saying, we got to do something to clean this thing up. They're destroying the earth. They're destroying the water and their air and their food. We got to do something to change this whole superstructure of what we call life on the earth, because these people are crazy. Damn, they are ignorant and ill-informed and can't read, but they know how to reproduce, and they got 14 kids, and the woman's got 14 kids, and she's pregnant and got no husband, and so you just keep reproducing these people by the millions, and those people have babies, and they reproduce, and so finally you end up with a situation where you've got billions of people who their parents didn't know how to read. The billions of people, the parents didn't know anything. They don't know nothing. They just were born and do the best they can and raise the family, because that's what all the animals do. And so today, now you still are looking at billions of people are reproducing and reproducing and reproducing. And of course, we have to, because America is looked to as a great and wonderful country, and so we want to feed the poor. We want to feed the poor children and all the poor. But you're so incredibly ill-informed. The poor are reproducing themselves existentially. It's just, you got 8 million, and they have illegitimate kids, 10 apiece, and now there's 80 million, and those 80 million reproduces again, and now you got 160 million, and then you just keep doing that until finally you got 8 billion people. And those 8 billion people, 7.75 billion are going to reproduce themselves again. And now you're going to have 28 billion people, and then they're going to reproduce themselves and make it 160 billion people. And why? All of them collectively got an IQ of 40. Nobody's thinking. Nobody's looking at what the future is. We've got, we're running out of air. We're running out of clean water. We're running out of food. And what bothers me is that so many people are having babies that never, and the end, I'm trying to tell you what I see in this world. People that are having children and babies now are thinking that the way we live today is the way humans in America have lived for tens of thousands of years. We've always, for tens of thousands of years, we've always had 7-Eleven and the big grocery stores and the big supermarkets and all the liquor stores, and we've always had Pop TV and Beavis and Butthead and the ball games. We've always lived this way for thousands and thousands of years because that's the way life on the earth is. And I'm saying, no, airhead, you better go back and do some research and find out we haven't lived this well in tens of thousands of years. And we are now so big and so overweight and so overwhelmed. And the people are just reproducing babies, and we're supposed to feed the babies of the world. And so what you're doing is you just keep feeding the babies, and they grow up, and they have more babies, and now it's 7 billion, and now, a couple of years there'll be another 10 billion, and we just keep trying to feed the babies and feed all the poor folks. All they're doing, the poor folks, are just reproducing themselves and reproducing and watching TV and drinking their beer and going to the ball game. They don't give a damn about the future. They don't read. They don't know anything. They don't understand anything. But they do know how to reproduce. And so I'm saying that one day soon, the world of mankind is going to wake up to the overwhelmingly obvious fact that the gods have come back, and they're going to do something about thinning the crowd. They're going to do something to thin us because we're out of control. We don't know how to stop. So we just continue to do what we've always done, have babies. And it's the most clever thing in the world is sex. Let's have babies. And then we've got so many babies, so many hundreds of millions, that we can either throw them away or throw them out in the street and let them live on drugs, or let them get into gangs, and the gangs are growing bigger because they're taking in more and more children and babies, and they're selling drugs, and the situation is out of control. And that's what this official with NASA, this German guy, looked and sounded like he came out of Nazi Germany. He was an official at NASA, and he was being interviewed about what's coming in NASA, and he said, we are preparing to leave this earth forever. This is what NASA is all about. Well, of course, NASA is made up of all the old Nazis under Adolf Hitler. NASA is an old Nazi boy network. And they were building rockets in Germany. Now they're building rockets in America. And NASA is nothing more than a Nazi operation, period. But he said, and he was from Germany, and you could tell with his mannerisms and his demeanor, he was a Nazi. But he said, we are getting ready to leave this planet. Why? Because you have no idea in the world how bad off this earth really is. You're expecting to have your billions and billions of babies, and there'll always be a grocery store and cold water, and you'll have plenty to eat, and baby diapers and all that, but you have no idea in the world what we are facing on this earth. Billions of people collectively are having children, and they have no idea, and they don't really care about what's coming to the earth. And we know that something bad is coming to the human civilization. We are getting bigger and bigger and more people, and the bigger we get, the less we know. So that there's a handful of people on the earth we call Illuminati, which are the masters of wisdom and the masters of science. while the billions of people, all they know how to do is sit back and have babies and drink beer and watch a ball game. And somewhere along the line, the end is coming, and the individual creatures who created us to look like them, they're watching us. And I'm telling you, there's something coming on this earth, and it's going to be horrible when the ordinary people of the world wake up and there's no longer any food. What food there is, you got to fight 14,000 people in your town to get that food, and God knows if they find out you've got the food and they're starving, they're going to come to your house looking for food. And if there's nothing there, they might eat you. And so I'm just saying that if you want to look at the world the way it really is, and you're going to have to look at it soon. You're going to look at it soon, whether you like it or not. And when you do, and you're going to find out that the people who are running this planet today are not from here. They don't care about this human race. They don't care about you. Go out and have all the babies you want and drink all the beer. We give you a liquor store in every corner, so go out and have yourself a couple of drinks and go watch your ball game, because we'll get rid of you real soon anyway. We've had enough of your bull.
Right. You know, and look, I'm going to kick a challenge that is being made to me, but I'm going to kick it out as a question to Jordan here. Because, and let me just set this up for a second. Jacques Fresco, you've heard of him, I'm sure?
Jacques Fresco?
Fresco.
I think I have, yeah, but I don't remember why.
Okay, so he's the guy who's...
I have heard that name, but I don't recall why right now.
Sure. Well, he's the inspiration behind the Venus Project, which has this concept about a way that societies could be managed in order. Well,
look at that. That all goes back to what I did. That is all based on my work.
Right.
It's based on something called the Zeitgeist movement.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Well,
that's why I'm going into this. But here's the question, because of what Fresco does, which is a little bit different, and he was included in those movies and all that as well. But the thing is this: if those in power were to choose to make a situation that was not in this condition as it is, okay, where you have, there's plenty of people that are easily controlled because they're poor and they don't know anything and they don't have any resources. But there are ways that this could be reimagined, right? So that, truthfully, there are enough resources on the planet right now, at least. I mean, exponentially, no. I mean, eventually everything runs out. But on the planet at the moment, there would be a way so that there would not have to be this shortage of resources. In other words, it is really scarcity, which is the currency of a lot of things. And it doesn't matter if it's money or if it's food or if it's housing or if it's decent water. It is through the scarcity of these things that you create these paradigms, right?
Of course, yes. That's called politics, and there's a science to it.
Oh,
it's called political science.
Absolutely.
Why? Because there is a science to causing people to starve so that they will do what you tell them to do.
That's right.
And you can use them politically, because when they're broke and starving, they'll do whatever you tell them, as long as they can get something to eat. Even if it's something that's dead meat that's been out in the garbage for 2 weeks, people will eat because they are hungry. And so you can manipulate them and exploit them and trick them and deceive them. And so, yeah, I understand what's going on, but but the implications are one day this stuff is going to come home, and when it does, the whole world is going to finally wake up. And when they do, and they see what's been done to them, and what their world has become like now, with no fresh water, no food, and what little food there is, the whole town is going to be looking for it. So don't you go out and look to find food for your family, because there's going to be 50,000 other people out there in the street looking for food.
Right.
And if you have electric lights, you better put a curtain or something over your window, because if they find that you got electricity, they're coming to raid your refrigerator and your freezer, and there's going to be, we've got movies made off of this. We got television and shows and movies have been telling you this for years. So, yeah, scarcity can be used politically. But like you said, eventually, down the road, there's going to come a day, and I got a feeling it's a lot closer than maybe you think. But myself, I think the eventuality is coming very soon, when we're going to wake up and find out we have raped this earth incredibly bad. We have destroyed our earth and our land. We've flooded it with oil and flooded our oceans with oil, and we've flooded our countries with criminals and lies and deception and alcohol and drugs, and something's got to be done to save the human family if the ones who created us want to save us. Because we can't do it. We humans cannot save ourselves. We're the only creatures on the earth. When we're born, we are helpless. All the other animals that are born, 2 minutes after they're born, they're on their feet and they know what to do and they know how to follow their parents and they grow quickly. And they already know what they need to do and how they do it. And they just were born an hour ago. Right. But humans, you have to wait, for 15 years till they finally wake up and know how to take care of themselves. So I'm just saying I'm afraid for the future because the people today have no power to change anything. They have no power. Some may be smart enough to see what's coming and want to think about it and what to do, but we don't have any power. Why? Because knowledge is power. And we don't have any real, legitimate, de jure, provable knowledge. Knowledge has been kept from us. And instead of giving us wisdom and knowledge and wisdom to work with to build a better world, we're giving Bugs Bunny and Donald Duck and baseball games and football games and sitcoms and all kinds of childish ball games and childish, tripe on television and entertainment, and it's just amazing how the human family has been so misled. And a handful of people, I know because I'm one of them. I've been trying for some 59 years to wake people up to the reality, the harsh reality we live in. And all I've ever gotten was mockery and robbery and people laughing at me and mocking me and stealing everything I have and thinking I'm working for the government, I'm working for the devil, or, I've been called every name you can think of. So I just do what I do because I learned a long time ago to look at reality and figure it out what's coming. If you know where you've come from in history and you know what's going on now, at least you got 2 points, 2 stars and 2 points. So draw a straight line through those 2 points, and now you can see where you're going. So you know where you've been, where you are now, and now we can see where you're going. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not anti-God, I'm not anti-anything. But I do want to try and help people to wake up to the reality of the world we live in. That's what I try and do.
Well, and that is what you are doing and have been doing and continue to do. We're going to take a break right now, but JordanMaxwellShow.com is Jordan Maxwell's website. And this, again, is the 11th episode in this string, this series on religion. A string of shows or a series of episodes. I don't know what's the best way to describe it. It doesn't matter. We have Jordan Maxwell with us, and we are getting deep into things. Of course, you want to go deeper, go to JordanMaxwellShow.com altogether. JordanMaxwellShow.com. That is the only website that is Jordan Maxwell's. Stick around. The O'Shelley Effect. We'll be right back. WallStreetWindow.com. Gold, silver, the stock market. WallStreetWindow.com. The brilliant author of The War State brings you exclusive reports about the big changes upcoming in the markets. WallStreetWindow.com. Perhaps you're invested deeply. Perhaps you're not in deep enough. Maybe you're thinking about getting started. WallStreetWindow.com. Michael Swanson, the brilliant author of The War State, understood these trends professionally for many years, and now he gives you the benefit of his knowledge. WallStreetWindow.com. Go there now. Go there now. Go there now.